Mitch Ryder had hit records.
You know you only love me with half a heart, even when I'm begging on my knees. Oh, I'll take it day in and day out. Have mercy, have pity on me, please. I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it so.
And it was a very interesting time. Not a lot was happening in Detroit. Motown absolutely dominated the music scene, but there was no place for white rock and roll young teenagers to go to get their music recorded.
In 1965, Jenny Take a Ride becomes the first hit for Mitch Ryder and his band, the Detroit Wheels. The song is based on the blues classic C.C. Ryder and is a mixture of white rock and roll and black blues. Mitch Ryder started his career as a singer in a gospel choir. As a young man, he tried to get a contract with Motown, but only managed to get a few gigs as a backing singer.
Berry Gordy himself waited at least 9 years from the time he started his label until he signed a white group. So there wasn't a lot of opportunity for white rock and rollers to show the country what they had. But once that gate was opened, it seems like every year a new artist come out of Detroit. Of all color and stripe.
In the 70s, white rock and roll bands rise to fame and sell tens of millions of records around the world, especially Grand Funk Railroad. Ted Nugent. To date, he has sold more than 35 million records. He gains notoriety with his xenophobic and racist outbursts. Foreigners are assholes. Foreigners are scum. I do not like them. I do not want them in this country, he says in an interview. Suzi Quatro, daughter of Italian-Hungarian immigrants and one of the most successful female rock singers of the 70s. At the end of the 60s, Iggy Pop takes to the world's stages with his band, the Stooges. Bob Seeger. He too is the son of an automobile factory worker from Detroit, and he still lives here today.
I don't wanna die.
Just like Mitch Ryder, with whom he's been friends for decades.
It's time to go to war. It's time to go to war.
It's an amazing town for talent. A lot of energy, a lot of commitment, a lot of serious musicians, a lot of competition. And the fortunes of Detroit are very much tied to the automobile industry.
Like no other city in the world, Detroit is a symbol for the car and the age of mobility. Thousands of African Americans from the south of the United States come here in the years before World War II to find well-paid work.
The word of mouth spread that people could come to Detroit and work in the automobile industry and make $5 a day.
In the 30s, the city has its heyday and is immortalized in a mural by the Mexican painter Diego Rivera. His wife, Frida Kahlo, is helping him. At the initiative of Edsel Ford, son of Henry Ford, the work is carried out for the Detroit Institute of Arts.
After negotiations, Rivera arrived here in April of 1932, went to the Rouge plant, spent days there, weeks, sketching, photographing, and worked them up into two main presentation drawings, one for the north wall, one for the south wall. The architect, Paul Cray, who was absolutely furious that a Mexican communist was going to be painting sort of terrible, horrible industry. When Rivera was working here, American artists regarded him as one of the greatest artists in the world. Matisse was the first artist given a retrospective at the Museum of Modern Art. Rivera was the second. And what he depicts is the creation of a car from the very beginning of smelting the steel. Everything was done at the Ford factory, all the way through the various processes on the production line here and along there, to the final car going out. And then far, far in the distance, right in the very middle of that south panel, is the only car that's a whole car in the whole picture, and it's painted red.
For a decade, the automobile industry produces millions of cars in the city. When the United States enters into World War II in 1943, Detroit turns into America's largest arms manufacturing site. While Europeans wage war against each other, former emigrants from Europe and other nations stand together on the assembly lines in Detroit.
Many influences are sort of a mixture of German and English and French and Afro-Americans and all sorts of. We're a mixture of all kinds of people here in the city of Detroit. Polish and Ukrainian and all over.
The Harmony Club in Germantown, a former German residential district in Detroit. The building now serves as a cultural center for African Americans. Marion Hayden and her band practice here regularly. The stucco of the 19th century ballroom is a reminder of its past. The room is being carefully restored so it can also be used for concerts. What looks like normality today is the result of many years of fighting, because in the northern states too, blacks and whites lived in separate worlds, even if they worked together.
segregation that they faced, it wasn't the same as it was in the South. And that racism wasn't the same. And even when they worked in industry, they had, the most dangerous jobs, and they were not able to move up in positions in terms of managers or even in terms of the line. They had the toughest jobs and the hardest jobs.
Resistance against that is rising.
Mr. Backlash, just who do you think I am? You raise my taxes, freeze my wages, and send my son to Vietnam.
Black workers organize themselves in trade unions and demand equal rights and access to education and housing. Objectives consistent with those of civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King. He's joined by hundreds of thousands on his march through the streets of Detroit in June 1963.
I have a dream this afternoon that one day right here in Detroit, Negroes will be able to buy a house or rent a house anywhere that their money will carry them, and they will be able to get a job. I have a dream this afternoon when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing with the Negroes in the spiritual of all, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Even when Martin Luther King speaks at that speech in Detroit, he makes it clear that the civil rights movement is in Detroit, that there's housing problems, there's job discrimination, automation is taking a lot of jobs out of the city, and there's the biggest issue, which comes to a boil by the late 60s, of course, is police-community relations. A lot of police brutality. The Detroit police force was largely all white, and there was a lot of harassment of the police in black communities, harassing black citizens.
Dr. King did his famous I Have a Dream speech in Detroit before he did that in Washington. And there are images of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people that were marching down the street with him. Detroit sort of had that positioning and was that far ahead and aware of making change in this country, in the country overall, in this community in particular, that Dr. King was here with particularly with the labor movement. C.L. Franklin, Aretha Franklin's father, was very, very much involved. Aretha Franklin was singing gospel songs, and when she went to church songs, and when she went to New York, my brother said, "You can make more money. Take out baby and take out Jesus and put baby in there," and so he kidnapped her and took her to his house, and he and his wife took care of her, and that's how Aretha got started.
Mustang is coming.
The excitement caused by Detroit's Civil Rights March quickly dies down.
Mustang Sally.
Quite in contrast to another kind of excitement caused by a car that epitomizes the American way of life, the Ford Mustang. But behind the facade of consumerism and leisure, the social conflicts continue to build up. And in July 1967, they erupt in violence.
Four days of rioting, looting, and arson rocked the city of Detroit in the worst outbreak of urban racial violence this year. Entire blocks of homes become infernos. At least 36 are killed, more than 2,000 injured, and damage topped the $500 million mark. Governor Romney declares a state of emergency, requests federal troops and 5,000 paratroopers reinforce the National Guard, state and city police. The city's industry and business are severely affected, and a tight curfew is ordered in the Motor Center.
An excessively brutal police raid in a predominantly black neighborhood of Detroit triggers the uprising.
We thought this riot was the greatest thing that had ever happened in Detroit. Because we were pulling for the black people from the beginning, you know. First attracted by their music, and then realizing that this music came out of a matrix of human suffering that was beyond our comprehension, because it was so far much deeper than anything we'd ever experienced. So we really were on the side of black people. And we, I'll say for our particular little group of MC5 and our friends and family and supporters, we